Mancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhaeva cha patitanang pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I did not prepare myself very much for the topics because I was sure that some of our great acharyas online will come up with some very deep explanation on the holy appearance of Radha and Krishna. So, but I was preparing myself for something about Gaudiya Vaishnavism in general, which I like to present to you as a revolutionary discovery. It is a discovery for anybody who English is not his mother tongue, or for anybody who is like trying to preach the Siddhanta of Krishna consciousness. And he may not realize that Srila Prabhupada Bhativedanta Swami actually coined many terms which make it possible to represent or to explain the transcendental philosophy. I was brought to that attention by Bhaktichandan Shanto Maharaj. And as we drove deeper into the subject, the more we got surprised how Srila Prabhupada actually created a Krishna consciousness language with many terms which explain the philosophy. Now here I can give just a list of those words. Then to go deeper into this, each and everyone can think about it. For example, what do these words mean in French, in Russian, Hungarian, Portuguese? Because last not least, all the books of Prabhupada were translated from English, not from Sanskrit or from Bengali. Prabhupada presented us with this philosophy in English language, even though the original is not in English. We can compare that by the translations of Sadananda and Walter Eidlitz of Vamanadev, who went to India and studied the philosophy in the original Hindi, Bengali, Sanskrit language, and they made some German translations, and they came up with a few other words, which are a little different than Prabhupada's, but they did not become famous. But what Prabhupada did, it is practically now the basis for universal conversation on Hinduism, Vaishnavism, etc. So I just made a list of words which Prabhupada created. These words, they were not understood in the English language from a Vaishnava point of view. I will go through the list without much explanation. Otherwise, it'll become a full lecture, and I don't want to give a lecture here. I just want to share this incredible gift Bhativedanta Swami Prabhupada gave to the world. And he also gave to all the teachers of theism, like if Govinda Maharaj or if Vamana Maharaj or whoever preached afterwards in the Western world, you could bet that they would use Prabhupada's words. So it was an historical transformation. Here I go with the list. Marginal energy. There's not such a thing as a marginal energy in the English understanding. It is referring to the Jiva Tattva. But since people don't know what is Jiva Tattva, so they have to understand what the heck is a marginal energy. Next one, internal energy, Antaranga Shakti. People know the word energy, but what is an internal energy? And then what is the external energy, which you may call Bahiranga Shakti, which also could be used intrinsic or extrinsic. The next one is from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. It's not even created by Bhativedanta Swami. It is called Moyati. Moyati means the half. So there's the divine, the Paramapurusha, the supreme moiety in the form of Krishna, and the other half moiety in the form of Sri Radha. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explained, because these words are there to understand the philosophy. The next one is divine couple. Well, the divine couple is not a beautiful couple, but it's the divine couple, which is the divine Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, Sitaram. They're divine couples. Otherwise, you can't really say. Maybe some people would say Shiva Parvati is also a divine couple, or Brahma and Saraswati, like that. But divine couple doesn't refer to just a beautiful couple of this world. Then there is conditioned soul. Well, we know that the souls go through many stages, but they're conditioned by what? They're conditioned by the three modes of material nature, which again doesn't exist in English language. Three modes of material nature, people have no idea what is passion, what is goodness, and what is ignorance from the point of view of the three modes of the material nature. So even passion, ignorance, and goodness has been words which had to be redefined by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas in order to make sense. Then the next thing is liberated soul. So a liberated soul means somebody who is going beyond the samsara. That's not known to anybody who is an atheist. He doesn't know what a liberated soul is all about. So by creating the term liberated soul, already you are preaching that you can reach liberation of some kind. And there's different stages of liberation, as we Salopya Shashti Samitpya Sarupya Katmang Idiota. There's different types, levels of liberations. Then the next one Prabhupada coined was spiritual sky. I mean, spiritual sky, we hear about the sky, but the spiritual sky is unknown to those who are scientists looking through the telescope, because they cannot see that spiritual sky. So only with the Shraddha of a Vaishnava, you can look at the spiritual sky, and with the help of the Shastras. Then the next one is super soul. I was mentioning before. How can there be a super soul? What is this? The soul above the soul. So then there's the impersonal energy. Energy we know, but an impersonal energy, what is that meaning? That means the absence of a personal presence. So Paramatma is the personal presence, omnipresence in every atom. And then is Brahman, which is the impersonal energy. Again, this is an introduction. Planetary systems we get from the Vedas, 14 planetary systems in one universe, and then there's so many universes, but the word planetary systems, that comes from Srila Prabhupada. Then the cyclic succession, that understanding is also coming from Krishna himself. So Prabhupada was explaining what is the Guru Parampara. So he said that is he called it the disciplic succession. And the liberation of Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, that is also an explanation of the stages of liberation. Then there's the social orders and spiritual orders. Again, they're not known to the Western world. When we're talking about social orders, they're thinking of something totally different. And spiritual orders like Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, the Westerners has no idea. So Prabhupada created social orders, spiritual orders. Then he explained the word fruitive work. Fruitive work is something completely unique because it means karmic work, conditioned by action and reaction. So the fruitive work, Prabhupada, he pointed out to us what keeps us in the material world. Then he explained low births and high births. Now, already when you say low birth, high birth, you are invoking reincarnation. You are invoking the law of karma, good karma, bad karma. All these things are Prabhupada terms, which he used, and many people used it because you cannot explain the Vedic philosophy without it. Next one is pure devotion. Srila Prabhupada spoke about devotion. We know the word devotion, but we don't know pure devotion because only pure devotees know what is pure devotion. So if you have no idea of who is a pure devotee, then also you cannot understand what is pure devotion. Next, materialistic. To worship material matter as the supreme, that materialism is understood, but the attitude of being materialistic, that's created by Prabhupada. The next one is deity, a divine statue. I mean, we cannot think of a divine statue without the Shraddha of the Vaishnavas. Therefore, divine statue or deity, Archana Vigraha, that is introduced by the face of the devotees. Otherwise, people would say puppets, doll, statue, but they cannot imagine a deity where the divine is present. Next word of Prabhupada is mundane world. We know of the world, we know that there's materialism and spiritual vision, but those who are just looking at the world in this mood of exploitation or indifference, they make the mundane world manifest. So otherwise, in spiritual life, even the mundane world can be spiritualized by dovetailing all the mundane things to Krishna's seva. Next, subtle body and subtle world. Prabhupada created that because of course in Sanskrit you have these words, no? Shukshma, Sarira, and like this. But for translation of these words, that was Prabhupada's unique contribution, absolutely unique. Then the next one is conjugal. The divine couple is a conjugal relationship, but this conjugal in spiritual life means something quite different than conjugal name in the mundane sense, which is just a marriage. But the conjugal rasa of the rasas, Shantadasya, Shakya, Vatsalya, this is very different. It requires, so conjugal rasa is Madhurya rasa. Then the paternal, maternal rasa of Vatsalya rasa, that is, this is again something very, very different. So the next word we have come, living entity. Prabhupada introduced the concept of living entities. So that means the soul. But if you do not have an idea that the living entity is different from this body, then you cannot realize this. So it is very helpful to consider the word living entity. Now you translate all these words in your own language and you see how Prabhupada has affected and changed your language. Because only by the Prabhupada language we can understand the spiritual philosophy. You may call this philology, that the study of the language and the deeper meaning of languages. Next one is Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, only a Vaishnava knows who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, those who are not Vaishnavas, for them, that doesn't mean anything. Supreme Personality would mean for them somebody high and talented or very expert, but of Godhead means there is God and there's personality. So it changes, it breeds the ground for an entire presentation of divine availability. Then, of course, again, the three modes of material nature. And then another word Prabhupada coined was mellows. Mellow has nothing to do with marshmallows. Mellows, this is the tastes of Dasya, Shakya, Madhurya Vatsalya. They're the devotional mellows, and that's what Prabhupada coined. He said the devotional mellows in Spanish means melosidades. Like it helps us, but we have to explain it. The next one is living soul, spirit soul. So the spirit soul is that there is something in us which is spiritual, which is living. That means it's a total preaching against atheism, which says the soul is a subproduct of matter. So in that sense, it doesn't make much sense. The next one is part and parcel. Srila Prabhupada used to say that the jiva is part and parcel of Bhagavan. So what does it mean, part and parcel? This is he adapts our divine identity, and at the same time he diminishes it to a limited dimension rather than being a cloned copy of the Supreme. No, we are parts and parcels. That is, we simultaneously one and different. Then the next one is constitutional position. That is something totally created by Prabhupada. What is a constitutional position? And what is a conditioned soul? How does it? We already explained that. But the constitutional position is somebody who is acting according to his eternal swarupa, his eternal relationship with the Lord. Then comes occupational duties. Prabhupada created that. There's no occupational duties really in our Western language. When we made the boss may say your occupational duty is this and that, but the occupational duties of Prabhupada are our dharma before the Supreme Lord and the universal law. So it's something very high. Next one Prabhupada created was a poor fund of knowledge, that to show that we have a lot of brain capacity, but finally what we know is just a poor fund of knowledge because we have no access to the highest knowledge. The next word Prabhupada coined is holy dham. We know land, but what makes land holy? That is all depending on our spiritual understanding. So by introducing the name Holy Dham, we know there's something different between going to Vrindavan and Mayapur or to visit Nairobi or Tokyo. Otherwise, some people say, oh, it's also holy there. But he created the Holy Dhams, he explained the Holy Dhams, he revealed the Holy Dhams, and he invited us to the Holy Dhams. So he created a whole Vrindavan awareness. The next word Prabhupada used, some yogis also used it, but it is only understandable in our philosophy. It's called transcendental. That something or someone is transcendental to the normal, ordinary, lower spheres. The next word Prabhupada created was division of society according to action and mood. Varna Ashrama. He gave this to us because we didn't know about this division of society. We only knew about Karl Marx saying he wanted a classless society, but we never knew that there's a division of society for the benefit of society that was not aware to us. So Prabhupada had to create a whole philosophy in his language and explain everything. The next word Prabhupada created is sense gratification. That is not there in English, sense gratification, to live for your senses. This is understandable when you think that there's a dovetailing or giving one's senses to the service of the Lord. Then it becomes devotional service instead of sense gratification. So devotional service, that is created by Prabhupada. Otherwise, we wouldn't know of it. Then next one Prabhupada created is lording it over. Means that the conditioned soul wants to become the master, and that's why he comes to the material world. As long as we want to lord it over, then we will remain in the material world. Then there's the perverted reflection. Again, Prabhupada said that. We know from the Bhagavatam that the material world is the banyan tree of the spiritual world perverted into the opposite. So we know from there. But the word perverted reflection was again created by Prabhupada, which is so much applicable. Then we have planetary systems. So demigods. It hardly ends. I just picked up a few of these words so we can understand how unbelievable Srila Prabhupada's gift was to the world, that he created this amazing way of having a language to explain Krishna consciousness. That language did not exist previously to Prabhupada. It's simply new. And every preacher needs that language. Otherwise, you want to explain all these terms, it'll be quite complicated. So we owe Srila Prabhupada all a lot. I think in the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha, it is also our duty as followers of Bhativedanta Swami Prabhupada to show to the other Gaudiya, to the other Vaishnavas in the world, how great the contribution of Bhativedanta Swami was really to all of us. Sometimes people may not understand it fully, and that may be also the fault of some of the disciples of Bhativedanta Swami Prabhupada, who were also kind of fanatic or puffed up and thinking then they're more or better than the Gaudiya Math or anything like that, because they were proud because they belonged to Prabhupada's society or something like that. But really the universal character of the Vaishnavas, it can be felt in the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha, and that is it is very great joy for us to give recognition to Bhativedanta Swami for creating the language to speak into the world the divine message of Nityananda and Gauranga. I will rest my case here in this point, not to make my words too extensive, because it is a project here we have, which many people should get to be able to say something. And I just worked in Brazil with Chandan Maharaj on this list, and every word we discovered, our surprise became bigger and bigger, how Srila Prabhupada really created a language for the future, for understanding theism, pure theism, by understanding that there's a supreme personality of God, there's a marginal platform, there's a super soul, there is an impersonal energy, there's a conditioned soul, there's a liberated soul, and all this together helps us to understand what the Gaudiyas actually came to give to this world. And of course, since we are just starting the preaching of Krishna consciousness, therefore we have to understand, my God, this is, they're really the key for coming towards the world and giving them the gifts of our acharyas. Thank you very much, and wishing you all a great preaching all over the world. Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha Ki Jai, and very happy to meet you today. Dandavats.